morning, everyone, and some of you will know who I am. I'm Major Estelle Blake, although I don't use the major bit. There were enough Major Blakes in the world before even me. I am the Corps Officer in Oldham, Fitton Hill, which is a bit crazy. We're based in a coffee shop, and I am also the Territorial Chaplain for the Anti-Trafficking and Modern Slavery Unit. But I'm also really good friends of Paul and Paula, your church leaders. And also, just to say, I used to be a kid at Wood Green when my parents, way back in the day, in the early 80s, they were in charge of the church there. So it's good to greet you in this Advent time. One of my very first memories was playing carols in the brass band up on Wood Green High Street. And so that's kind of a special memory for me. And so here we are talking about following the star. And in Matthew chapter 2 and verse 2, we're just going to take a look at that verse. That says, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose, and we have come to worship him." This week I attended a training online, and they were talking about the star method to achieve your goals. The idea that to get to your goal, you need to be doing something that's specific, truly doable, active and relevant. Everywhere you go, people are talking about this idea of stars. The ones that fall down out of the sky, a falling star, and there's the songs, and when you see, you bash your head, that kind of star. And then the ones that you see on the TV that are now no longer called stars but celebrity, and the ones that are stuck in a castle in North Wales at times, and those other stars. But let's look at this idea of what it means to follow a star. You see, the star is something quite important because it's a star that led them to Jesus. A star was the thing that if we aren't careful, we can look so much on the star, we can take our emphasis off Jesus. And we need to be aware that we make sure that our emphasis is on the light bringer and not upon the star. The star is just a means to get there. You see, these shepherds who were spontaneous, their spontaneity was based upon fear and trembling when they'd seen the angels in the sky, and they followed the star. I absolutely love the story of the shepherds. There they were, sitting on top of a mountain, bored, doing their job, a bit tired and cold, but aware of their surroundings. Maybe even losing the plot a little with the lack of human interaction and just being with the same old people, a bit like now really, and that flock of sheep doing their own thing and moving to get a better ground for more nutritious food for these sheep. The cold and long and dark nights were there, and these people had been there, but they were brightened and frightened by the promise of this star. Can you imagine the response of people around them as they chose to follow the star, as they chose to look to Jesus, as they chose to go and find the light bringer? The response would have been, "You what? You're following a star to go and find a baby? Really?" Remember, this was the way that they travelled. Paul in 2 Corinthians chapters 8 and 5 to 7 says this: "It was totally spontaneous, entirely their own idea, and caught us completely off guard. What explains it was that they had first given themselves unreservedly to God and to us. The other giving simply flowed out of the purposes of God working in their lives. You do so well in so many things. You trust God. You're articulate. You're insightful. You're passionate. You love us. Now do your best in this too." They were spontaneous in following the star. And Paul says that the God followers, they realised the need to get up and follow. They realised the need that they had to be good in this as well and do their best in this as well. You see, so we might be scared. We might be feeling like those shepherds that what's the point? We're bored with life. And yet we are Jesus followers even now. And yet when God speaks to us out of our fear and our scare, we decide maybe not to respond. But hopefully, like the shepherds, we'll have the courage in that fear and trembling to get up and to follow that journey again to the Christ child, because it's definitely worth it. So they leave and they go. They have no plans on how they're going to get there. They're just looking at the sky and looking at the light in the sky and following that light. On the other hand, we have the wise men who made all their calculations. They'd taken time to plan their journey. They'd taken time to know where they were going. They were headed off on an important journey to meet the light of the world. The star for them was not the end. The star was just the way of getting to that journey and getting to see the light of the world. A star would take them on a journey of peril and danger. Not just the wise men, but all their servants. Not just the caravan of food and animals and supplies. They had planned and they put specific reasons to go where they were going to, stopping and listening to their dreams, taking advice, but bringing them all the same to Jesus by following the star. In Joshua, we read these words in chapter 31, verses 6 and 8. Be strong and courageous. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Those words that we know, that moment that someone says to you, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, go where you're going, means you know that you're going to have a bit of courage and that the journey and the plans are not going to be easy. You know that what ahead is going to be tough. And the same would happen for those shepherds. They would need to have that extra piece of courage. But you know what? Even though there were surprises on the way, they were in tune with God. They were watching and listening to him. How many of us are basing our journey this Christmas upon the desire to be in the presence of Jesus? How often in our darkness and difficulty have we found the courage to follow the star and seek out Jesus? Or maybe even the opposite. We've stayed at home because we feel safe and we don't need that kind of spontaneity in our lives. We need plain and boring. How often in our lives have we planned and read and listened to God to discover once again that the star will lead us to Jesus? The desire to focus on Jesus and to be taken a completely different way to him. The desire to seek out his words that will show us new ideas. You see, even in the darkness, the preparation or the spontaneity to follow needs courage as we follow the star and we discover Jesus once again. Today, let God surprise you and take you on a journey. May God bless you in this time of Advent.